Yo guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing my monthly video. I'm going to start doing these more often, but I'm going to be going over everything that I read during the month of September because it was a pretty stacked month. I read some hardcovers, read some trades, read some larger collections, read a bunch of collected editions over this month. So I'm here to talk about them individually for the most part, and give a bunch of little mini reviews, let you guys know what I'm thinking as I am on my comic reading and collecting journey. So without further ado, we're gonna get into it. But before I do start, I just want to say please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, if you do want to go on to enjoy the video and all that. We've got a bunch going on the channel right now. Definitely go check out the new podcast. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. It's really sick. The first episode is up here on this channel if you want to check it out, and all of the future episodes will be up on a separate channel that we have just for the podcast. So definitely check that out. Wanted to plug that real quick while we're here. But yeah, anyways, let's get into it. So starting us off, I'm going to talk about my indie reads this month because, man, we had some bangers. So first one I'm going to talk about is the biggest one. I'm not going to talk about it for super long because I want to make a dedicated video for it this week. But that is going to be Something is Killing the Children. I read the entire series. I read this first volume. Originally, I got this first volume for Kayla for her birthday, I believe, to try to help her get into comics with me. I finally got her around to reading this first volume after I read it, and she enjoyed it. But she's not super big into comics. Maybe she'll read the rest of the series at some point. I don't know. But needless to say, I really enjoyed it. I read this first volume, and then I added the rest of the series, which is down there, I think, like right there, to my cart on Amazon, purchased it, and then as soon as I got it in the mail, I tore through the rest of the series and just binge read it. It's absolutely fantastic. I freaking love it. If you guys want to read it, I highly recommend. It's extremely violent, and there's just some really badass world building. It reminds me, the feel of it is almost like Stranger Things, just like small town, middle America horror type stuff, but there's also like this overarching fantasy element to it that's has to do with like a secret society and these monster hunters, and it very much reminds me of The Witcher. So it's like a mixture of like Stranger Things and The Witcher. So two things that I both really enjoy. So yeah, I highly recommend Something is Killing Children. I'll talk more about it in its own video, but yeah, really fucking awesome. Next up, I'm going to talk about some Void Rivals. I got volume 3 in, but this month, hold on, crack my neck real quick. This month I also read volume 2, I believe. I'm iffy on Void Rivals, I'll be honest. The first volume I thought was okay. Definitely didn't meet the hype, I don't think. But one thing about Void Rivals, for me at least, is it just has gotten steadily better. Volume 2, I was still iffy on whether or not I wanted to continue with it, but Volume 2 was better than Volume 1, and it keeps getting more interesting as it goes. And Volume 3, I think, was the first volume where I was like, okay, I'm finally sold. I'm in this series for the long haul. We start to get a lot more crossovers, I guess, or like tie-ins and references to Transformers, which is one of my favorite ongoing series right now. I really love that world, everything that they're doing over there, but we're finally starting to get some insight into the greater Energon universe as it's tying in more. So yeah, Void Rivals Volume 3 was actually quite tasty. I did really enjoy this. Next up, I got 7 to Eternity. I read the Compendium here. I originally read Volume 1, like the first. I think there's only 4 volumes, but I originally read the first like trade paperback. I sold it and then ended up getting this Compendium because I did really enjoy that first volume. But yeah, what to say about 7 to Eternity? It's Rick Remender, Jerome Pena on the art. it's just a really neat, really fascinating and unique fantasy story. It's really hard to kind of explain, but it's this quest where this disgraced paladin, essentially, like there's these group of magic knights, essentially, almost like the Knights Radiant from the Stormlight Archive. Gives me similar vibes, I guess. He is on a quest with this other group of like magic users to transport this evil king, and the evil king like whispers in your ear and like tells you things, and he's like corrupting the people, and you have to try to not hear him, but it kind of goes off the rails, and you know, it's just got some really cool use of magic, and yeah, I mean, it's just kind of hard to explain, but I ended up really enjoying it. There's a bunch of really cool fantasy races in it. The art is really awesome. I'll go ahead, I'll show you guys just some of the art here real quick. Try not to spoil anything here, but just to give you guys an example, you know, the use of colors are really cool in this. So yeah, I definitely recommend, if you guys want some standalone indie stuff, to go check this out. It's only 17 issues, and it's in this compendium. It's a really thin compendium. Yeah, it's a very interesting read. Yeah, it's just kind of hard to explain. No, I thoroughly enjoyed it as I was reading it. Next up, I finally got around to reading Scott Pilgrim, like the source material. I read the comic. I think, well, last month during August, I read like the majority of the series, like the first 4 volumes, and then at the beginning of this month, or it was at the end of August, and then at the beginning of this month, I think it was literally September 1st or 2nd or whatever. It was the first thing I read this month, actually. I got around to finishing it. So, what did I think about Scott Pilgrim? I really enjoy Scott Pilgrim. You know, I like the movie a lot. I've seen it several times. You know, I got the Funko Pop up there, the Ramona. I really like the style, and I think it's very interesting. I like the show that they did, like recently in the last couple of years, they did an animated show, and I thought that was really well done, super sick. But going back and reading the source material, I thought it was enjoyable, but ultimately it ended up being a little bit lackluster. I mean, it was alright, but it wasn't my favorite. It was still enjoyable. It had a lot of heart. It was good, but it definitely wasn't like the greatest thing I've ever read. But just reading it, though, there's so much that they left out of the movie. Like, obviously the source material is always going to have more than the movie. Like, the movie has to cut things out to meet like a 2.5 hour time slot, right? But they left out a shit ton. That being said, I think it's really fascinating what they were able to accomplish with the movie, having left out so much. But yeah, that's why I would prefer, honestly, if they do another animated show, but instead of doing like an alternate telling like they did in the show, they do something that's like a straight up adaptation fully of the source material, like of the comic. I think that would be a lot more enjoyable, and that would be really cool. But yeah, overall, I mean, Scott Pilgrim, I mean, it's a classic at this point, I feel. It's got a lot of heart, but yeah, it didn't blow me away. So moving on, we're gonna do our, well, I guess I'll talk about the one DC thing I read before I hop into Marvel, my bread and butter. Just, I think last night, I went and I read Absolute Wonder Woman. I've already read the majority of the content in this first trade. I think I fell off of the singles after issue 6, so the only thing, there's only one issue in here that I hadn't read prior. I thought it was pretty good. Definitely, in my personal opinion, Absolute Batman is still and probably will always be the best Absolute title. I just love Batman as is, and I really enjoy Scott Snyder's writing and Nick Dragata's art. Everything about Absolute Batman is great. I absolutely love it. This isn't a Batman review here, but Wonder Woman isn't as good, but it's still pretty solid. I really enjoy the last couple of issues here. They're just kind of like one-off issues. It's like a 2-issue mini arc that they do for issues 6 and 7 that's supposed to take place. It's like a backstory kind of thing that takes place, I don't know, before the start of like the series, and it's just kind of like a, what do you call it, an interlude, I suppose, between the main arcs. But when they switch artists, like Hayden Sherman's art is pretty cool. It's definitely got like a almost like Disney feel to it, especially Diana. I think her character definitely looks like a Disney princess. But whenever it switches to the, I don't know exactly who does the art on those couple of issues, but it's really fucking cool. Let me just show you guys, like, just the use of shading and lighting and stuff. It kind of has like an Assad Ribic, I think. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but it kind of has like sort of vibe to it, where it's like very realistic looking and just really cool. But I mean, look at that use of shading there, and like, dude, that's fucking awesome. But yeah, I really enjoyed that art for this portion of the novel in particular. I mean, like, that is fucking sick. So yeah, Absolute Wonder Woman is still really interesting. I like it a lot. It's, you know, Wonder Woman with a big ass sword. It's dope, but yeah, not as good as Absolute Batman. That's just me. I have the trade for Absolute Superman coming soon, so I'll give that a reread here in October as well. But yeah, no, it's still good. All the Absolute Universe stuff is good. It just doesn't measure up to me personally. But anyway, yeah, Absolute Wonder Woman, pretty freaking solid. Alright, moving on to Marvel, which is the majority of what I read, this month and just in general. If you know anything about me and what I review on this channel, for some reason, I don't exactly know why, but what am I saying? I was looking at Wolverine comic. Marvel and indie comics make up the two main sources of my reading. I try to read some DC stuff. I'm just not really super interested in as much DC as I am Marvel. Yeah, I don't know why that is necessarily. I just like Marvel a lot, I guess. But, you know, there was a long time where I considered myself more of a DC fan than Marvel, but evidently that's not really true. Anyway, got a lot of Marvel. So, starting us off here, I'm going to talk about one thing that I read this morning. Got around to reading Hulk Gray from the Colors series, Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale. What a masterpiece right here. I really enjoyed this. Yeah, I mean, the Colors series is critically acclaimed. I don't remember if I reviewed it or not, but Spider-Man Blue was a little disappointing for me. It gets a lot of hype, and it didn't quite measure up for me. I enjoyed Daredevil Yellow a lot, but Spider-Man Blue, it wasn't bad. It was just solid, you know, but it wasn't mind-blowing. Like, Daredevil Yellow changed my perspective with comics. I was like, whoa, this is different, right? Spider-Man Blue, I felt, was trying to be like that, but it just, I don't know, it was off. I don't know if it was just me. It's probably just a me thing. I'd probably have to reread it someday, and maybe I would feel differently. But that being said, I was hesitant going into Hulk Gray. I love Hulk. I think he's a really awesome character, very complex character, as I've recently come to realize. But after reading Spider-Man Blue, I mean, I was hoping that this would turn out to be, that I would align more with it like I did Daredevil Yellow, but I was hesitant, right? And I'm happy to report that I really enjoyed this. I think it's superior to Spider-Man Blue, personally. But, yeah, I'm going to do a whole dedicated video to Hulk in particular. I just think Hulk is really awesome. And, yeah, I just want to talk about Hulk. I'll do that soon-ish. I was thinking about doing it in this week, but honestly, maybe I'm probably going to read Immortal Hulk before I get around to doing that video, just so that I have more Hulk underneath my belt before I do a dedicated video. But I'm completely getting off topic here. I don't want to give away too much because I am doing a Hulk video, but yeah, really amazing. I think Hulk is, you know, he's such a badass, strong character. He's huge, he's angry, very, I mean, it's just pure unbridled testosterone and rage, right? But what I love about Hulk that I've come to realize, again, I mean, I've always liked Hulk, but lately as I've started to read more, you know, Hulk is a lot more of a multifaceted character than I originally thought. And part of that I feel like is because of the Marvel movies, and maybe I need to rewatch those. And maybe it's just the way I perceived it, but I always thought that the Hulk was just Bruce Banner but mad, right? Just angry Bruce Banner, but that's not true. The Hulk is his own character, his own, yeah, I mean, he's his own entity that, you know, clashes with Bruce Banner. They're two different characters, essentially. They're the same but different, right? And I didn't also realize that Hulk also has a lot of tender moments. One of my favorite, you know, things about Hulk, you know, you read stuff like Planet Hulk, for example, which is one of my favorite comics I've ever read. I think Planet Hulk is fucking awesome. It's like Hulk and Dune, like, mixed together. Like, it, you know, it's dope. Where he's, you know, a gladiator warlord, pretty much. But then you read, what is it? The Donny Cates, which I read the Donny Cates Hulk recently as well. I'll talk about that here in a minute. But there's a scene in that where Hulk is just like, Hulk, sorry. And, like, he's apologizing, you know? And it just put this image in my mind of, like, he's just like a big teddy bear that gets angry a lot. And it kind of changed my perspective of Hulk as a character. And that was the first time I really thought about him in that light. But then Hulk Gray piggybacks off that, I think. And, you know, you see a lot more tender moments with Hulk, you know, especially as it concerns to, is it Betty or Betsy? Yeah, Betty Ross. As, you know, there's a scene in this where he's, like, trying to take care of her and, like, fix her up because he accidentally hurts her, and he's just, like, this bumbling buffoon, but, like, he means well, but I don't know, just like a Frankenstein sort of character. I just think he's really endearing. You know, he has two sides. There's this endearing big teddy bear side of Hulk that I really enjoy. I think it's, quite frankly, kind of adorable, right? But then there's also the badass, rage-fueled berserker, right? So there's two sides to Hulk, and this really emphasizes the tragic nature of the character, as well as that more tender side. This is a really long-winded review, but and I talked more about it than I necessarily wanted to, but yeah. No, Hulk Gray is definitely really fucking fantastic. I think Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, especially Tim Sale in art, was the perfect person to really convey Hulk in this light. I just really like the way that Tim Sale drew Hulk, and then reading about, like, the inspiration for Tim Sale's like art style of Hulk, where it comes from like this like one shot like parody of the Hulk, that he kind of took the art from that and like made it his own. And I don't know, it was just really neat reading the introduction and reading what went into the making of this. And yeah, no, it's really neat. But I'm trying to show you guys a really cool, here, I'll show you this here. This part, you know, in particular, he's just trying his best. He's huge and he's super strong, but he's trying his best to be like delicate and tender, right? Yeah, no, I love the Hulk. So yeah, this was an awesome read. Next thing I'm going to talk about here, I've got the X-Men manga. I have this first little manga omnibus here. I enjoyed this. It was pretty cool. It had some cool art in it. I really liked the X-Men being drawn in this like 90s manga style. And the art differs from time to time, because the way I understand it is there's like a different artist on every volume or issue or whatever. So the art does switch up a little bit throughout, but I mean, it's more or less the same, I would say. It's only like slightly different. But yeah, it's just got some really cool moments. It's essentially a retelling of the 92 animated series, but just in manga. Like, it's got some like quirky Japanese like manga elements to it, and like the humor and like comedy, and some of the situations are like very manga. But just to give you guys an idea of some of the art, like, isn't that dope? There's a few other things in here. Like, look at that. That is awesome. Just stuff like that, right? There's just really cool panels I enjoyed a lot. It was more of a, to me, it was more of a visual experience. I think the story is pretty one note. I mean, it's the animated series made for like, for kids, right? Like Saturday morning cartoons type shit. So it's not super in depth. It's very simple and just kind of like a, I don't know. It was just a fun, enjoyable read, but it's not one that I really have any, what's the word? Any desire to really continue. I mean, they have another volume. I might pick it up at some point. But yeah, it's nothing crazy. There is a really cool part though. Towards the end, Cable is introduced, and the way Cable looks in this is really dope. Let me give you guys a piece of the art here. I can't find the part, I don't think, that I was looking for, but this is how Cable looks like in manga format. So anyway, yeah, no, it's just a neat read. I think it's pretty cool, and for any X-Men collectors and enjoyers out there, I think it's definitely a worthwhile read, just to have a little fun. Nothing too serious. And this format is also really nice. I enjoy the feel of this book a lot. It just looks really good. So yeah, nothing crazy. Next up, very quickly, I'm going to talk about one of the first things I read this month, and that is my Wolverine 1988 run read-through that I finally started this month. I have the second omnibus up there, which I also read. I just didn't bring it down. But I also read the second omnibus. I'm going to briefly talk about it because I have a whole dedicated video to it out already if you guys want to check that out. It wasn't uploaded too long ago, so you can very easily find it. But yeah, just a quick overview, right? I don't own the first omnibus, so I have this first Epic collection, which contains the first 10 issues of like the Marvel Comics Presents stuff, which is acts as pretty much a prologue to the 1988 run. So I read that. I thought it was really neat. The first 10 or so issues of the actual 88 run, it's Claremont and Buscema on the art. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Some of my favorite Wolverine content I've read to date. Probably my favorite Wolverine content. I was very hesitant going into this because I haven't had the best experience with retro comics, but I was blown away, really, and I was very pleasantly surprised that it didn't really feel as antiquated as I thought. The writing was pretty solid throughout. But yeah, I really enjoyed everything in these first 10 issues, and then the Marvel Comics Presents stuff. I think the quality starts to dip a little once we get into the Gehenna Stone affair stuff, which it's like, it's whatever, but there is still some neat stuff that happens in there. It's not bad, it's just not my favorite. It's not, I don't think, nearly as good as the stuff with Claremont, but you do have, I think Peter David is on a lot of that early stuff as well. And then you get into Omnibus 2, and Omnibus 2 I thought was very hit or miss. It continues with like most of the, what's it called? It's got all of the Gehenna Stone stuff in there. But then there's also some side story stuff. I thought the Jungle Adventure, the Mike Mignola and Walt Simonson stuff that's in there, that mini-series or that little one-shot story was amazing. Really enjoyed that. All of like the Central American revolutionary shit that happens was just wild. I didn't vibe with that a whole ton. I mean, I thought it was just, it was alright. It was very campy, and it didn't, measure up to the stuff that I read by Claremont and like the original first like 10 issues or so. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember what else is in there, but I think that's about it for the most part. I mean, there's a handful of like mini-series stuff. There's some Marvel Comics Presents stuff in there. I mean, there's a Spider-Man team-up by Eric Larson. That was okay. There's a Hulk team-up. I forget who wrote that one. Again, it was okay. Yeah, Volume 2 of the Omnibus wasn't nearly as good as this Epic Collection here, which is why I think whenever Wolverine Omnibus 1 comes back in print, it is a must-buy. For me personally, and I think everybody should really buy it, because it has the essential, like, best Wolverine stuff out there. It's got the Miller Claremont miniseries. It's got the first 10 of Marvel Comics Presents. It's got the first 10 of the main series, as well as the Barry Windsor Smith Weapon X story. So it's literally got all, like, the Wolverine greatest hits, like, all right there. And that is really everything you need for Wolverine, I think. But I'm going to continue on with the Wolverine read-through throughout the year, so stay tuned for that. I plan on doing more episodes on that as I continue. But that's the long and short of it. If you're able to get the first omnibus for Wolverine, or even just this first Epic Collection, or if you're able to read Wolverine if you've got Marvel Unlimited, I highly recommend issues 1 through 10 in particular, as well as the Marvel Comics Presents stuff. But yeah, Wolverine's fucking dope. That's my go. Moving forward, I read Wolverine Origin. This was an interesting read, and looking back, maybe it isn't as good. Like, now that I'm able to like really think about it, maybe it isn't as good as I originally thought. I still enjoyed it. It was kind of confusing though, because from my understanding, it's taking Wolverine, like X-Men Origins, the movie, and that whole sequence of events at the beginning of the movie there, and it's sort of like, oh, that was a good idea, and it's taking that and plopping it into main continuity Marvel, and this sort of takes place, I mean, it takes place way back in time, but the context, I guess, is that in House of M, when Wolverine, at the end, spoiler alert, gets his memories back, like, because Wanda, like, puts everything back to normal after fucking everything up, like, his mind's been erased and, like, tweaked so many times through experiments that he has amnesia, but he gets everything back. He remembers everything after House of M, to my knowledge. And this is sort of like what Wolverine comes to remember, if that makes sense. And I don't know. I thought it was really neat and how it was told. It's almost like being narrated by this chick, and her and Logan go on this adventure into the Canadian wilderness. I thought the beginning part was pretty cool. The sequence of events in the quarry, I don't really know what my thoughts are about this. I mean, I thought it was interesting. I think part of the reason why I'm iffy on it is as I was reading it, I kept letting my memories of the movie seep in and like mess with my idea of what was going on, because the entire time you've got this character of Dog, and in my head I kept thinking that dude was Sabretooth, but that's not accurate. That's not how the continuity works in the comics, so it's not like a one-to-one at all. I don't know. I probably, if I were to, really go back, I'd probably rate it a little bit lower than what I originally did, but I still thought it was interesting, and I mean, I think it's kind of a must-read for Wolverine fans to get a more complete understanding of his character and his backstory. Alright, so moving into probably one of the bigger portions of this video. We're almost finished, I promise you guys. This is a long video. I started to do a bit of a reread partly and get caught up a little bit more with the new Ultimate Universe. So I finally got around to reading Ultimate Invasion. I thought that was really interesting, getting a little bit more insight into the maker and his motivations and how all of the new Ultimate Universe stuff came to be. I thought it was really intriguing, and then leading directly into the Ultimates Volume 1 I finally got around to reading. Again, this was really neat. I really liked the idea of this sort of alternate telling of the Marvel Universe. Like, this characters aren't exactly who they should be. They have slightly different power sets and personalities because of their altered circumstances, because of the maker, of course. It's just really neat and refreshing. That's what I love about the Ultimate Universe now. That's what I like about reading the old Bendis Ultimate Spider-Man in particular, is it's, again, same but different, but in a good way. Very refreshing. But yeah, no, I really want to get Ultimates Volume 2. I think I have that on the way later this month or later in October. I'm not 100% sure. That came out recently, though. But yeah, Ultimates was really cool. I like the stuff. I think the maker is probably one of the best Marvel villains ever at this point. He's insane, and just like his power set, everything that he has, his intelligence is just insane. Yeah, everything about this first trade of the Ultimates was really good, and I really like this idea too of them finding out, how things are supposed to be, and then trying their best to get as many people who are supposed to be heroes that don't know it, and sending them this like package that has their powers in it. I mean, I just think it's really cool, them trying to fix everything, which fix the world or fix everything is the name of the trade. And yeah, anyway, I just thought that it was really cool. And then I did go back and I reread Volume 1 of Ultimate X-Men, and then I also got Volume 2 this month, and I read that as well. Again, I enjoyed it. I think, Peach Momoko's art is really fantastic. Of course, that's what everybody talks about. It's got that manga kind of style, but I think the story is really interesting too. It starts out, it's like a, I don't know, almost like, not a shoujo, but like, just like a traditional, like, slice of life Japanese manga, right? but it's also got like some psychological horror elements to it that are pretty cool. And of course, you know, it takes place, there are little hints of what's going on in the greater Ultimate Universe with the Maker and his council and all of that. But one thing I think the story really suffers from, I think the first few issues are really straightforward. Like the contents of this first trade are a little bit confusing, but for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. Come volume 2, it starts to get a lot more out there and a little bit ambiguous. And I can't really put my finger on what it is exactly, but the reason why I ultimately, pun not intended there, dropped the series in the singles is because month to month it is extremely hard to follow. You know, as you're reading it, it's a little bit confusing and you're like, what just happened? And then imagine that, but you have to wait a whole month until the next issue. That's, you know, why I dropped it, and I think it's best read in this trade format, but even then it's still confusing. I'm still not 100% sure what is going on here towards the end of here, but it was still really neat. I mean, I enjoy the art style, the mystery aspect of it, that, you know, psychological horror element to the story I think is really neat. But yeah, I guess I just need to read volume 3. To give you guys some context, I also read most of the contents in here. Actually, well, I guess this is volume 1, but in volume 2, I read all of it. Yeah, I read through issue 12. After issue 12 is when I dropped it, so I read all of this previously. Yeah, but anyway, it was nice to go back and read it as like one big story. I read volume 1, reread it all the way through, then hopped right into volume 2, read it straight through, and it was more of an enjoyable experience, definitely, than waiting month to month. And then lastly, for the Ultimate Universe little read through that I was doing this month, I have Ultimate Wolverine. This was also a new pickup because it was a pre-order for this month. It came out at the beginning of the month. Yeah, no, this was really awesome. I read a lot of the contents of this in singles as it started and was coming out, but for some reason, I mean, I know the reason, but at the beginning of the year, I was really heavy into collecting like new releases, weekly releases, every new comic book day, right? But a lot of the series I ended up dropping because I realized it's just much better to collect and read. It's more enjoyable typically to read in collected edition format, and it's more affordable as well, usually. A lot of the stuff in here I already read. I think the only stuff, I think I dropped it after issue 4. 5 and 6 I hadn't read prior, but yeah, no, it's just really neat. I mean, it's Wolverine as this assassin, pretty much. I mean, it's Winter Soldier, but it's Wolverine. I think it's really cool, though, learning more about the greater Ultimate Universe. Like, obviously, you have what's going on in the forefront of each of these Ultimate titles, or at least the spin-offs, right? I mean, Ultimates is obviously, like, dealing with everything. Like, they're in the mix of it, but you take a look at Ultimate Black Panther and Spider-Man, X-Men, and Wolverine. You've got the characters that you're focusing in on the forefront, but then there's also, you take it a step deeper, and you start to uncover little bits and pieces of information about what's going on in the other Ultimate titles and like the greater world that we can't see. And it's kind of one big puzzle that you put together. But Wolverine in particular, I think, is really cool. And this is Ultimate X-Men here is kind of like it's dealing with the mutants, but a lot of it is dealing with mutants that we're not as familiar with. They're like alternate, I mean, all of them are alternate versions of mutants that we're familiar with, but it's just very different, right? But Ultimate Wolverine here it starts off as like a Wolverine story, but as you go, it starts to turn into more of an X-Men story, like a traditional X-Men story, except it's dealing with mutants that we're familiar with, but but more familiar with in the traditional sense, if that makes any sense. Like they're different, but more traditional mutants, I suppose. But yeah, no, it's a really cool read. I really like the reference to a lot of it. It reminds me of Weapon X by Barry Windsor Smith. There's a whole issue 4 is just like straight up Weapon X, right? Yeah, no, it's just a really cool read if you get around to reading it. I highly recommend it, and I'm excited for volume 2 because by the end of volume 1, we sort of break out of this initial like status quo of Ultimate Wolverine, and I think with volume 2 there'll be a little bit of a tonal shift and plot shift of what exactly they're trying to accomplish with this story. All right, and the last thing that I'm going to be talking about today, we've got the Hulk Omnibus. I mean, it's a very thin omnibus, but the Donny Cates and Ryan Ottley run. Yeah, what to say? So I originally read this. I read the first trade paperback, and I owned the second trade as well, but I didn't own the Banner of War story. I thought that the Banner of War story was optional, so I never picked it up. And then after reading the first trade, I realized, oh shit, I kind of need to read Banner of War. Like, that's not optional. Like, that's a must read to understand what's going on. So yeah, I was kind of fucked there, because I had volume 2. I was just planning on reading volume 1 then volume 2, but then I would end up having to get another trade that I didn't realize I actually like needed, right? Long story short, I just ended up getting the omnibus because it was on sale. It was very cheap, rather than spending, half the price, I guess, or like 2/3 of the price on another trade paperback. I could have just bought the omnibus and have a nicer edition and have all of it. So that's what I ended up doing, and I'm trying to sell the 2 trades I have. I really enjoy Donny Cates' writing, and there's always this very interesting style he has for his writing that I've noticed. A lot of the stuff that he does, of course, he's got his greater, like, his cosmic stuff. The cosmic side of Marvel, I think, is very neat. In his take on that is all awesome. Just like the scale of everything is just insane. Like, you take a look at Cosmic Ghost Rider, and he just turns him into like the most OP character you can think of. And similarly here with Hulk, his ideas are just so out there and really interesting and very cool ways of approaching a story and these characters and reimagining them in a way. I think his stuff is really neat. But what he does with Hulk in particular in this story is really interesting as well. I mean, I'm saying a lot of the same words. I'm sorry. I'm getting tired here, so my vocabulary was up here, and it's going down a little bit. But I think this was the first story that really introduced me to how abstract the Hulk really is, because, I mean, it isn't talked about. It's like kind of briefly talked about in Planet Hulk and World War Hulk, right? Which were the first Hulk stories I read. But they pretty solely focus on Hulk, right? I mean, there's this idea that Hulk is trying to keep Banner away, but it's not really talked about like how complex Hulk is, I guess. It's very much just a Hulk story. Like, you're following Hulk, right? But in this, to contrast, it's very much a Banner a Bruce Banner story with Hulk. He's in control of the Hulk, almost like a Professor Hulk kind of deal, but not. It's almost like a mecha. Like he uses, I don't know. I don't want to give away too much, and it's a little too abstract for me to explain when I'm this tired. So I don't even know if I could if I wanted to. But he is basically piloting the Hulk within his own mind, as if it were like a Gundam. Which, I mean, is just fucking wild, right? A very Donny Cates kind of thing to do. Yeah, no, it's just really neat. And the way that he fuels the Hulk's anger, like he's able to make himself more powerful by trapping the Hulk's persona in this room where he can like turn up. It's basically like a Coliseum, like this gladiator fight, but every time he turns up the notch, the opponents the Hulk is fighting get stronger, and you know, the stronger his opponents get and the angrier he gets and the more he gets beat up, the stronger he gets as well, which fuels the ship, you know. So you see, you know, him fighting demons and cosmic entities and even Marvel zombies and this giant version of Wolverine. It's just really cool visuals, and you've got Ryan Ottley, my goat, on the art, of course, from Invincible. Where's my hand going here? From Invincible, right? He's very much known for very visceral and brutal and violent art, and it doesn't shy away from that. It's very violent, which is really cool. Yeah, I like Ryan Ottley's art style a lot. But yeah, no, it was just a really neat read, and seeing, I mean, the Banner of War story ended up being really cool. You get to see sort of like a Hulk versus Thor, but then also sort of like a Thor Hulk, a Thulk, you know? Yeah, no, it was just really cool. So I highly recommend this one, especially if you're a fan of Donny Cates. And I mean, if you just want to see some dope Ryan Ottley art, then yeah, must read. But anyways, guys, that is about it for today's video. That is everything that I read in the month of September. I apologize towards the end there. My vocabulary went down, and my thoughts started to get a little bit more scrambled as I've been talking for an hour now. And it's getting later. I'm getting tired. So I'm going to wrap this up here. Thank you all for watching. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you have any thoughts or comments, please be sure to leave them down below. I'd love to converse with y'all about some comics. But yeah, anyways, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.